Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, we are going to be continuing on with the Iliad with Jade, once again from About a Book podcast. She won't be here for the intro like normal, just because the last episode I kind of had to cut in half because it was a little long. But yeah, she is going to be joining us again. I really think that she's a lot of fun. I think these Iliad episodes, honestly, couldn't do them without her. The Trojan War, not a lot of fun stuff happens, so I'm glad to have her and have her join us and all that fun stuff because it kind of like brings some more fun. Because honestly, Trojan War a little dull, but I think there's some good fun conversations in here. But for news, before we get into the episode, this Friday, our Patreon exclusive episode's going to come out, so that'll be Heartless with Leah from YA Book Chat. She'll be joining us over there, and that episode is a whole lot of fun because I really do like Marissa Meyer. Like, I've only read so far her Lunar Chronicles series, which is all her fairy tale retellings, but I think they're really good, and if you haven't read those yet, that is going to be my recommendation for this week because please read them. If you like fairy tales, but you're kind of tired of like seeing the same old reimaginings, because I kind of feel like people try too hard to stick to the original plot. I think this is a really interesting way to bring in fairy tale elements without having to kind of force yourself to stick to that original plot, which isn't super easy to modernize in a lot of ways. I think this really brings a lot of fun new light. I know the books aren't necessarily super new, but it really gives a lot of that fun, like, energy, I guess, is what I'm going for. The Heartless doesn't really follow, like, it's not on the same planets-esque as the Lunar Chronicles are, but it's got a lot of her writing elements that make it really enjoyable. And honestly, that was the first book by her that I read outside of the Lunar Chronicles. So I think that kind of just makes me more excited to read more books by her because they're just really well done, and I think she's a really good author. But yeah, if you haven't read Heartless yet and you want to make sure you don't get spoilers, please go read that first before joining us. That episode will be coming out on Friday because we do those on the first week or the first Friday of the month. So for September, it'll be coming out on Friday. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Also, a fun new Patreon perk is you get exclusive early access to episodes. So instead of having to wait till Wednesday, you can hear them on Mondays. So there's that going for you. And yeah, who doesn't love early access, right? And I think the last little announcement I have is that now we have tote bags, and like other stickers and stuff over on our Threadless merch page. So if you haven't checked out the merch page recently, there's a bunch of fun new stuff on there. So please be sure to go check it out because, you'll never know what you're going to find on there. But without further ado, let's get into the episode and talk about the Iliad. So then we are on to book 9. Mm-hmm. So the Achaians are going back to their own country. They're like, we're done. This is it. Like, this is too much. But then the allies of the Achaians are like, yo, no, we are going to take Troy. Like, I don't care. We're going to figure it out because just because you guys are babies does not mean that we are babies. And I was like, dude, like, you guys are losing. Like, go home. It's not that difficult. Just like turn around and go home.
Surrendering is the worst. You can't do that. You gotta like die on the battlefield, give it your last breath out of your lungs. Like, don't even think about surrendering and saving your life and having like an amicable truce. Like, not happening.
Literally. And like the king is literally there. So if he dies, like he can't go home alone. So if he dies, like who's gonna lead the country? I guess I hope he has an heir at home. Otherwise, like that country is just gonna be kingless, I guess.
Yeah.
So Nestor tells the king that they need to make Achilles happy. He's like, listen, this has gone on long enough. Like, at this point, we are missing half of our cavalry because Achilles owns it all. And we're missing our best fighter in the entire country. So, can you like put your things aside? Can you like talk to him or something? Because this is ridiculous.
I like Nestor though, because he's actually like a king of his word, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's like the last one on the battlefield. Like he doesn't like run off like the rest of them do when all the lightning bolts come down, you know, he
Mm-hmm.
like stays there, which is like, you know, what do you call like a leader amongst the people, or whatever they
Yeah.
call it, you know what I mean? Like he's like not a king, he's like a leader. Like he's actually
Mm-hmm.
down there in the war with his men, which I think is
Yeah.
like honorable.
I know. I really like Nestor. And he's like, basically, everyone turns to him for advice, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the king's like, all right, fine. Someone go tell Achilles that I will make him rich. I'll give him back his wife. I'll give him the 7 prettiest women besides Helen in Troy. He's like, I will even give him one of my own daughters so that he becomes my son-in-law. And he's like, also, I've never, the way they say that he's never slept with his wife is very creepy. I was like, ooh, I don't like that at all. Like, I'm not even gonna quote it because it made me a little uncomfortable. Like, was yours very explicit in how he said he's never slept with his wife?
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Oh my goodness, mine was okay. Hold on. I'll tell you what it says, word for word. I guess I will end up quoting it, but I'll probably delete it out of the episode because it was very explicit, and I was like, let me figure out where. Let's see. Oh, and then he said that the people of Lesbos are lesbians, and it made me laugh. He's like 7 excellent workwomen, lesbians, whom I for myself, for I
That's because
chose for myself.
that's because they're from like Lesbos, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it made me laugh. Oh, here we go. So you want to hear exactly what it said?
Mm-hmm.
It says, "I swear a great oath that I never went into her cooch, nor have
Ew.
I been with her after the manner of men and women."
I wanted to gooch.
And I was like, I was
I
like,
did. I didn't think that like translation or word or whatever was. I thought that was kind of like more modern
me
slang.
too, me
Like
too.
I didn't think that was a very like legitimate word. If you
Yeah.
get me.
I didn't
That's
think it was like
some.
a physiological description.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I saw it, I was just like,
You
I
don't take it that
laughed.
in. It's too funny.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness. I was like laughing so maybe I will keep it in just because it's so funny. But I was like, oh, like when I read it, I was just shook that that's exactly what it said. I was like, okay, cool. That's fine, I guess. So that's what he says. And then the king's like, oh, did you find yours yet?
I don't know where that is in mine because I actually borrowed this book, so I haven't physically marked it.
Mm.
Um, but I did find a nice line where Agamemnon, I think, is talking about Helen, and
Because if you're
he
talking about
says,
the okay.
um, as I too love this girl from my heart, even though I won her by my spear. I just thought that was a cute line. It's not in the same paragraph that you were talking about because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know where that is, but I was like, oh, that's kind of like a little romantic thing. And this is where the
Yeah.
romance is coming in, even though it's like bare minimum romance, saying like, I won her by my spear, but I love her. I actually
Yeah.
love my wife, shocker. But I was like, oh.
See, in mine, it says that he doesn't, or that Agamemnon does not like his wife at all. He's like, I'm not interested in her anymore. So it's interesting that yours is like, no, he still loves his wife, and mine, because it's like, nope, no, he doesn't.
Oh, I don't know where if I find it later,
Okay.
I'll send it to you on Instagram.
Yes, please do. It's really interesting just seeing how different it can make characters based on the translation.
Yeah, I think that's why I can't find where the paragraph is because our translations are so different, like the
Mm-hmm.
names and everything. But anyway, moving on.
Moving on. I just had to read that because I was like, this is
Yeah.
just, it's so wild. Okay.
Mine definitely didn't say that anyway. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it didn't say that.
I know. I was just like, I was crying because I was laughing so hard. So the king says that he'll make Achilles rich, that he'll give him back his wife, and that he never slept with Achilles' wife. So Ulysses and Ajax are like, okay, fine, we'll go talk to Achilles. And they like sail over there to wherever Achilles is at. It's like, hey, would you come back if we gave you all of this money, everything you could possibly ask for? Not only would you be the king's son in law, but and have his pick of his daughters, but you'd also get your wife back. And Achilles is like, listen, like at this point, nothing I have gets to stay mine. So like why would I take him up on this deal
Yeah.
when he could just betray me, take it all back tomorrow? Fair point, Achilles, okay? But like Ulysses and Ajax are not happy about this. They're like, dude, like we really need you. And he's like, well, maybe he shouldn't have taken my wife. Just a thought. And Achilles is like, yeah, no, I'm not going. And like Achilles' friend who basically raised him is like, you should really think about going. And Achilles is like, I'm not going. So you don't even have to keep asking. I'm not doing it. And like my thing is like they're probably like 5 years into the war now. He's holding this grudge. First of all, granted, totally like fair grudge. He stole your wife. Totally fair. Would not help him either. But I love to think about the fact that he's like, he fully knows a war's going on. He has a ship that would save everyone, like many ships. And he's like, sounds
He's
like a them
petty.
problem.
He's
I love
petty.
it. I love it for Achilles. Like, be as petty as Achilles all the time because, like, no one's gonna burn Achilles after this, okay? Like he's gonna be like, you know what I did last time someone, wronged me? I let them suffer in a 10-year war.
He literally has like a god complex because he is like a demigod or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like he knows his worth and he's like, I'm not giving in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Literally Achilles sees that toxic man and walks the other way. Okay? So we love that for him. It's amazing. So they try and get him to go. He's like, I'm not going. You guys can leave. And so they leave and they're like, fine. Okay, we'll leave. And Achilles just basically stays on his little island playing, I think it was a lyre, whatever he's playing. He's just hanging
hmm
out on a beach, I
Yeah,
guess.
the instrument, yeah.
Yeah. Just
It's
having a
kind of like
grand old
little
time.
kind of guitar.
Yeah. Love that for him. I would also hang out on a beach instead of going to war. Sounds great for me. Um, so as like Ulysses and Diomed, oh sorry, as Ulysses and Ajax leave, they're talking so much smack about Achilles. They're like, I can't believe Achilles just won't get over this grudge and come with us. And I can't believe like this is how things are. This is ridiculous. And they're like being really angry about it. But also, who said you guys had to go to war?
Ulysses is Odysseus in the Ulysses is the Roman version of Odysseus, right?
I guess so, because there's no one
I'm
named Odysseus in mine.
Yeah, I'm like 95% sure
Okay.
because like James Joyce has a whole book called Ulysses and it's like kind of like a modern interpretation of like the Odyssey, which is like
Mhm.
about Odysseus. So yeah, I'm pretty sure just for anybody listening that Ulysses is Odysseus.
I
Anyways.
wish I would have gotten Greek instead of this. Like I should have. I loved the cover and I solely bought it based on the cover and
Ah,
because I
a
was at
grand mistake.
I know, I was at Barnes and
Everyone's done
Noble.
it.
Yeah. And I didn't look into it. I didn't even think about it. Like I did not think about the fact that you have to bear in mind like who the translator is and like their inherent
Yeah.
bias while translating because then I would have picked a different one. But I was like, I trust Barnes and Noble. This cover's really cute. And then I bought it.
Yeah, I just think you can always like rely on Penguin. Please
Yeah,
sponsor me.
I know.
But yeah, so I just borrowed a Penguin copy. But
Yeah.
yeah, it seems to be pretty decent. Just a
In the
job.
future will be Penguin Classics all the way. I will never be betrayed again because I have been burned before, which is right
Let
now.
me see the cover. Let me see the cover. Was it worth it?
It was so worth
Oh,
it.
yeah, it is. That is
Yeah.
really pretty.
And
And
look at the
let's be
back.
honest, it's gonna live on your shelf forever.
Look at the back. It's like a
Yeah,
little
that is
shield.
nice.
Ugh.
Mine just has a little painting inspired.
I mean, still cute. Like, I don't get me wrong, I love a good penguin classic, but I like
Mm.
impulse purchased this, and then I was like, I need, if I'm gonna buy it, I need to have a podcast episode about it, right? So
Yeah,
then,
if you're a bookstagrammer, it needs to be
mhm,
aesthetic, you know.
yeah. Then Diomed suggests that the king fights in the front tomorrow and leads all the men in war. And the king's like, Agamemnon is like, you know what? Great idea. Killer, amazing idea. We'll do that. And I'm like, really? Like that? You thought that was a better idea? After Achilles turned you down, you're like, you know what I should do? Frontline it. Infiltrate. Sounds great. Okay, like we all handle breakups differently, Agamemnon, but wow, okay. So then we are on to book 10. Agamemnon is not sleeping well because, he just agreed to go into infantry tomorrow,
Mm.
post breakup stress, as we
Yeah,
all
you know,
do.
that late night overthinking, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And then he like goes to Nestor and he's like, listen, Nestor, like, what are we gonna do? And Nestor's like, we're in some deep trouble here. I don't know if you've realized, but like we're kind of outnumbered at this point. Because like they had to send forces over to Troy. The Trojans just have their entire city at the ready, and then when they want to go home and get a good night's sleep, they could just walk back into their town. Like the Achaeans can't do that. They can't just go home. Like they'd have to sail home. So
Yeah.
like they're all pretty much worn out. People are dying. Jove is not in their favor. Okay, like he wants the Trojans to win. Things are not looking good.
If Zeus isn't on your side, you're kind of screwed,
Yeah,
you know.
truly. So then like because Zeus gets what he wants. Okay, like
Yeah, he's
we
the
we've read
boss.
we've read the mythology, and even if you say no, Zeus doesn't listen. It's not good. And then Nestor is like, listen, let's go find someone to spy for us. We'll just send them over. It'll be fine. And they'll come back and tell us what's going on over there. And Agamemnon's like, killer idea. Great, wonderful idea. Let's do that. Let's just send them over. And then they'll come back and tell us what's going on. So they're trying to figure out who's gonna like sign up for this. And Diomed's like, listen, I'll go, but I want someone to come with me. And so everyone's like volunteering, and then Ulysses is like, I'll go. And then Agamemnon's like, listen, Diomed, I trust you. Pick who you want to go. He looks at Ulysses and it's, they make like that friendship eye contact. And
Yeah.
then Ulysses goes with him.
Yeah, it's like when you're in class and the teacher's like, you got to pair up, and then you just like shoot your friend a look across the
Yeah.
class, you know, they got each other's back. But like Ulysses is like a smart guy. He's a good guy to have on your side because he's the one that ends up thinking of the whole like Trojan horse idea.
I know. I was wondering when that's gonna come in, okay? Because I was like, we were talking about Monty Python this morning, and
Yeah,
I couldn't help but think about that part too. And I'm like, when does this happen? Because like
I'm not
we know the
sure.
canon, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen soon, right? So then we flip over to the Trojans' point of view, and they're like, we should send a spy. And they're like, you know what? They wouldn't even think about that. That's a great idea. Great idea. But the Trojan spy, instead of like sneaking over, he runs at like lightning speed on a horse over to their camp.
Not
Like,
too subtle.
yeah. And while Diomed and Ulysses are just like casually creeping along, and they're like watching this guy breakneck speed going, and they're like, that's weird. Like,
Mm.
they're like, this guy's either gonna spy on us or loot the bodies. So let's like let him pass us a little bit and then we'll just shoot him down. And they're like, killer idea, let's do that. So then they shoot down this little spy. And Ulysses like starts questioning Dolan, who's the spy, the Trojan spy. And Dolan has like no, training in spying whatsoever. Spills his guts, spills everything. And he's like, yeah, these are the camps that are not guarded at night at all. Also, this is where Hector is. He's surrounded by this many people, blah, 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 blah.
It's real kind of like a school bully and like a, you know, little wimpy kid, you know, pulling back in their pants. He's like, where's your lunch money? You know, and he just like spills everything.
Yeah, truly. He's no reserves, no holding
No,
any information.
I just imagine him as like the most like scrawny, like little spy, like
Mm-hmm.
totally not like sus at all, you know, just like unobservant, just like trotting through or more galloping
Yeah.
through to the camp.
I know he's like, oh, I'll just walk in, ask them where everything is, and then I'll
this is
leave.
this is my moment to shine. I've been waiting.
Yeah, I know. Literally, though, Dolan is not prepared. So then Dolan's like, listen, just like use me for ransom and it'll be great. And Diomed's like, no. And then just immediately kills him as soon as the questions are,
Mhm.
he has all his answers. And then Diomed and Ulysses are playing dirty and killing soldiers in their sleep. I was like, oh, they killed like 13
That's
soldiers.
that's nasty. Like
Yeah,
that's low.
I know. I was like, I don't even know whose side we're supposed to be on in this because, like, I feel like I don't even know if there is sides. Like, I don't know if we're supposed to be rooting for someone here.
Yeah, like that's definitely like as I said, by no means an expert, but there's many people that like study the morality presented in this book because it is so murky, and then obviously it's interesting to look at too because as I was talking about like all the honor and war and stuff, they definitely did have different morals back then than we do
Mhm.
today. Do you know what I mean? Because maybe like I don't know if it's the same as like being in the war zone or actually being in the battle, but like maybe those guys like would have kind of like died in battle. Like it wouldn't have been as bad if they died in their sleep because it's still kind of like honorable for them in some way. I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
yeah. So the morals are definitely different back then than they are now. So who
Yeah,
knows what the stance on killing people in their sleep was?
I know. I mean, I guess you can technically say it's kind of like guerrilla warfare, but like it's not like it feels dirty to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of dirty.
No. But I mean, like in wars, like even today, is there ever like a true, like just winner? You
No.
know?
Yeah,
Like there's like both sides play dirty. So yeah, I
true.
guess that's also like an interesting observation, I guess, that like obviously war is way different than it is in this book,
Mhm.
but the human behaviors can actually still be like quite similar to how people act today.
Yeah. I do think it's
Yeah.
interesting too that for in this book, a lot of the time they consider crying manly. Like the things that they consider
Yeah.
manly for us is very different. Like for them is very different than what we kind of consider quote manly in the modern
Yeah.
day. And I
Because
think
they sorry, continue.
oh sorry. Well, I was just gonna say like I think that like our interpretation of manly and their interpretation and family is like toxic in their own ways. Like both of them aren't necessarily
Mhm.
right, but it's interesting to see the different and the similarities of what they consider manly.
Yeah, because it's not even like, oh, it was manly to cry. Like they still did have the stereotypical, like, you need to be all like, muscly and,
Hmm.
manly and fighting and stuff. But like those same like manly men, champion fighters like still cry and stuff. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's not like it's totally different. That's just more like an added part that like somehow got lost, which I
Yeah.
think is definitely like coming more into like the conversation today about like men should be able to like express themselves more. But yeah, it's interesting because we still have kept on to like we need to be like strong and tough and all that type of thing, but just somewhere along the way the crying thing got kind of like twisted a bit.
Hmm. And then it's like
Yeah.
it's gotten to a point where like if men show any emotions, like that's not considered manly. And I'm like, that's very detrimental to your health. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So now the entire Trojan army is awake, and Diomed and Ulysses are making their way back to the Achaeans, and they're like, we gotta go. Like we spied, but we also committed murder. So
We gotta get out of here.
yeah.
True, crime must have been. Do you ever think about that as well? This is definitely another Iliad style tangent, but back then, crime must have been so no pun intended, bloody easy to do because
Mhm.
there was no like CCTV, there was no like gloves or forensics or anything
Mhm.
like that. You know what I mean? You could just like be totally messy, kill people in their sleep, blood everywhere, and then just like skedaddle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you think about it too, though. Like, if you poison someone, how would anybody know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't really have like all the technology of finding out about like an autopsy. Like you can only do what you can visually see.
They just think that the gods struck them down or something, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wild.
Yeah.
So now we are on to book 11. Fighting starts up again. Um Agamemnon is killing like way too many people. Jove tells Hector, he's like, hey, wait till Agamemnon is injured and then go fight him. Like, just hold out. And then as soon as Agamemnon starts to like leave the field, Hector sees his chance and like goes in. So like for some reason, Agamemnon and Hector have like all powerful like killing sprees going on.
Yeah.
Like it
It's like
feels
take a coffee break. Like you must
yeah.
be tired. That must have been very emotionally draining, killing all those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, it feels like if you were like level 15 in a video game and then you went into like a level 1 area and like everything is
Yeah.
like one hit, that's basically what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good comparison.
So the Achaeans retreat again. Um, everyone's trying to figure out how to get Achilles there. They're like, listen, we really can't do this. We need Achilles because he has so many reinforcements and like we're out of people at this point. Like they can't even get any more people over there because all of their ships are already there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, I don't know what to do. We need Achilles. Now we are on to book 12. So the Achaeans had built this wall previous like books that basically they did not sacrifice anything to the gods for. So like all the
Yeah.
gods are mad that it exists. They're like, we want this wall down. We don't like it.
Like you can't do anything without making a sacrifice to the gods. You can't make any decision. You can't do any battle. You can't build anything without making sacrifice to the gods. So this is like a huge no-no.
Yeah, they're just very salty about it. They're like, okay, how do we get it down? So the Trojans are like, okay, let's march towards the wall. We're going to take it down. So they just like straight up start destroying it. And then at the end of this chapter, they have made it through the gates, and that's where we end.
Mm-hmm. Also, I forgot to mention
Mm-hmm.
in book 11, I don't know if it's like literal or if it like mentioned in your book, but like it
Mm-hmm.
rains blood. And I'm like, is that more like, oh, it rains blood like a bloodbath, or is it like he
Mm-hmm.
actually makes it rain blood to get them like in
Ooh,
the mood?
I didn't have
I don't
that.
know.
That's cool. That's like a cool omen.
Yeah, and then as well, just another little side tangent about book 11. They
Mm-hmm.
also mentioned my favorite goddess, Iris. I think she's
Mm-hmm.
Arcus in the Roman
They say
name.
Iris in mine.
Oh yeah, well she's cool because she's like goddess of the rainbow and like the messenger, and I feel like
Yeah.
she's just like the most unproblematic out of all the gods. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like as I was saying before, it's kind of like a TV show. Like a little character pops in, you're like, oh, like I know them from like the last episode or whatever.
I know.
So when I saw her, I was like, yay, Iris.
I know. I love seeing like all the names of the Greek gods because like you kind of know what kind of role they're gonna play.
Yeah,
Like,
but oh sorry, continue.
no, you're fine. So it's like kind of what we talked about before, where there's like continuation of characters of,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how Greek gods are. Is there's just the continuations, and you know how they're gonna act, which I think's fun. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say about book 12 and the wall being built. It's like when they're also like standing at this wall, don't they see like an eagle with like a
Oh
snake
yeah,
in its mouth, which symbolizes like basically you're screwed, like, you know, bad luck.
yeah.
And that was also mentioned in like the past books we've been discussing, but just like briefly, but like birds are like huge, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they just like it's either good luck or bad luck. It kind of goes along like the sacrifice, like sacrifice mean different things, and
Mm-hmm.
birds they see mean different things. And I just think it's cool. Sorry, this is like another kind of side tangent.
No, you're
I
fine.
think it's kind of cool how people back then were like a lot more in touch with nature and a lot more
Mm-hmm.
like observant, because I don't know about you, but me, I could be walking in the road on my phone and there could be an eagle with a snake in its mouth flying over me and I probably wouldn't bloody notice it. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
know. I feel that too. Like, I think it's cool where it's like when you spend the time looking for signs, you'll find them. But like if you
Yeah.
ignore it and you're just like, I will go the ignorant route, then you're not gonna
Yeah.
see anything, which I think is really interesting.
So I think that's really interesting. Like in the book, it kind of adds like an ominous, you know, little foreboding to the
Mm-hmm.
book. So, and I'm sure like the audience back in the day when they're hearing this story being performed or whatever, they'd be like, oh, like an
Mm-hmm.
eagle with a snake in its
Yeah.
mouth, like stuff's about to happen, like get your popcorn, you know what I mean?
Truly, truly. It's fun. I can't wait to read the rest because I want more Achilles. We don't see anything of him. We're halfway through, and I'm just like, I know the Song of Achilles exists because we like Achilles. So, like, can we talk about him, please?
Yeah, I'm not sure what there is like much of in this book. I know,
Mhm.
he gets like hit in the ankle and stuff, which is like his weak point,
Mhm.
etc. I'm sure anybody who's listening already knows that because, I'm sorry if it's a spoiler, but this story's been around for like thousands, if not like hundreds of millions of years. But anyway,
Mhm.
I only kind of know his like origin story, so I'm not actually sure what happens in this. All I know is that he's a good fighter. So yeah.
I can't wait to see it. But thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Where can all the people of the internet find you and your podcast?
So my podcast is about a book. It's about a book podcast on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok under the same name, but I don't like to talk about that because it's cringy. But I do more of like the history behind famous books. So this isn't like a great example because I'm not totally sure about the history behind this book. I was more doing, the 21st century perspective on it. But yeah, I do this kind of thing. So I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, so if you want history and like actual facts and knowledge, go to her podcast. If you want to listen to me make fun of it, that's what we're here for, okay? Like very different perspectives. So I like that we can both talk
It's
about
a
the
cool
same.
collab. It's very
Yeah.
powerful. I definitely want to have you on mine once
Mhm.
I understand how to facilitate that more because I'm still learning how to use my microphone. So
You're fine. Whenever you want to do it. Like I can't promise that I know anything, but if you want my perspective, I will totally do it. It's fun. I love doing this, okay?
what would you say like your favorite book is? Because mostly I do like classics, but or else like, well-known kind of older books maybe that people know as well. You know.
So like what do you want? Like my favorite classic or my favorite like modern
Well,
current book?
what's your favorite classic?
Okay. It's probably a toss up between Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility because I love them both dearly for very different reasons. Like I think Pride and Prejudice, wonderful enemies to lovers. Sense and Sensibility, dramatic, so much drama. It's a reality TV show and an old English book. Love it. So good.
I would love to have you on for either of those episodes, maybe the Sense and Sensibility one, because I personally did not enjoy either of those books,
Oh
which is
really?
a big unpopular opinion. So I'm thinking of like when I incorporate guests into the show, I'm gonna have them on for like, a little chat at the end to say like why they are passionate about that book or why they really like it, especially if I've got like a different opinion. So
Yeah.
if you love Sense and Sensibility or Pride and Prejudice, I'd love to have you on to like
Yeah.
fight for your cause. We can have a healthy little debate about it or whatever.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Like
No research required.
I will say that my thing about Jane Austen, like I love her, but she is not she should never be anyone's first classic that they ever pick up. She is not an
Yeah.
easy read, you know? Like if
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
like the classics, you would love Jane Austen. Like
Hmm.
not really, but like if you like her writing style,
But
you'd
don't
probably
if
like her
you're
books.
if you're starting off with classics, don't start with
Yeah.
her
No.
because
Like
yeah.
you'd want a more user-friendly classic. And I can't really I just talked about this the other day about it. I think Little Women's kind of a user-friendly classic. Like it's a classic you can pick up. I hate Little Women though, but like
I think I think Dracula is a great classic to start off with.
I haven't read that yet.
It's really short
Well,
and everything like
I
that.
started it.
Also, a more modern classic, Animal Farm is great,
I
and actually, Great Gatsby is great as well because that's really
love
short
Great
and that's
Gatsby.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Great Gatsby is the one I said is the if you're gonna pick it up a classic for the first time. Have not finished. So I started Dracula as a kid and
Hmm.
got bored. Never finished it. So like now that I'm more of like an adult, I kind of want to revisit that one. Um,
Yeah. That
also
was
like
my first podcast episode, but I'm not
yeah.
promoting it because like it's absolutely terrible because it's obviously my first podcast. I'm so monotone and like my mic and everything is terrible. But yeah, I always have like a soft spot for that book now since it was
Mhm.
like my first episode.
I know. I love like having guests on. That's because it makes me more energetic than probably typically would be with
Yeah, yeah.
just how I
Yeah,
am
I
as a
definitely
person.
get that. But like Dracula is so like homoerotic. It's like
Really?
so yeah, like if you finish reading it or if you ever do it on the show, I'd love to come on and talk about it because
Yeah.
it's like especially since it's an Irish book as well. And it's
Oh,
like
is it?
oh yeah, Bram Stoker, he lives like well obviously not now he lives, but he grew up like 30 minutes away from like where I live and everything. And it's like really inspired by like the Irish landscape.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so very much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. I really hope you guys are enjoying the Iliad. We got a bunch of fun new episodes coming up soon, which have the Iliad. And then we will be talking about the Odyssey right after. And for the Odyssey, we did plan ahead this time, and Jade and I both read the Emily Wilson translation. So if you haven't read that translation, I highly recommend it first before we even get into the Odyssey, so you don't get spoilers, but also because it's a really, really good translation, and it's really like reader friendly. So I think it's honestly one of those that I would highly recommend if you are trying to figure out a way to get into classical literature for the first time and you've wanted to read the Odyssey, but sometimes translators make it a bit clunky. I think you would really like this one, so I highly recommend you check it out if you have the opportunity, because it is a very, very good translation. But as I said in the intro, our Patreon exclusive is coming out. So if you want to join us over on Patreon, go to patreon.com/barelybookish, and there's already a bunch of monthly exclusive episodes. All of our show notes are over there, and yeah, there's just fun content, and I'm hoping to bring even more content over there in the future. So if you want a little bit of extra, and you wouldn't mind donating your hard-earned human dollars to support a content creator out here, I would appreciate it. And also you'll get some really fun exclusive content from Patreon. So please consider donating and joining us over on Patreon. You'll also get access to the Discord, and honestly, who doesn't love a good Discord? But yeah, I don't have a whole lot of announcements. I will be coming back to Twitch in September. I recently moved. If you don't follow me on any socials, that's what I've been up to. I finally moved. I'm still in the process of unpacking, but I'm hoping to be joining back to Twitch soon, and I'll make a big announcement when I do that over on my socials. So if you haven't followed us on social media, it's at Barely Bookish on literally everything. But yeah, I will catch you all in the very next episode. Thank you so much for listening. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah. Our theme song is by Raphael Crux on freepd.com, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye!